That's great.
Everyone has a copy of the agenda? Meeting's in order. Before we get on to the printed agenda, I just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone for all their efforts over the last year or more. For some of us, it's a lot more than that. For the success of the debt exclusion vote and town meeting. It is extraordinarily gratifying to know the support for the schools that were shown by the community, by the overwhelming support for the construction of the new middle high school. And it's due in no small part to everybody's efforts at the table. So I just want to take a moment to thank you all. Did you have anything you'd like to add?
I never miss an opportunity.
Go for it.
No, I just, I wanted to echo those and say, you know, a new building is such a vivid example of the pride and the hope in the future that a community has. And so it's very exciting to be at this point, and I'm very grateful to all of you and so many other members of the community and the community as a whole. It was really a team effort. But I did also want to pass along, I know you received some communication, but time and time again, folks have talked about how the presentation went so well. And I'm glad that it went that well, and I know that it went that well because we all worked on that over a period of several months. And your input and feedback was invaluable in terms of getting it to that point, and those that participated really did a top-notch job, and it's just a really, really clear example of what working together, how we can accomplish more. So that was great feedback to have as well. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you. The project manager contract amendment.
We distributed copies around that. We've also distributed copies, Mike, of TAPACE, the design one as well. And that would take us through the completion of the project. You have them right there.
Greg, we didn't make copies for every one of the contracts, but I can circulate the copies I have.
Okay. Everyone wants to take a look. And that would be, Mike, from DD all the way through the closeout of the project for both firms. And each one are spelled out in the different phases. It's what you had seen before.
This is the amendment number one that we previously saw in November when we were
Doing the Form 3011.
doing the Form 311.
Correct. Yes, it's the same exact thing. And who signed that last time, Christine? Carrie?
Carrie.
Yep.
So
So
Roxy. Oh, go ahead.
May
So
anybody
is
have
there-
any questions
Is
on
there,
it?
is there action required by the committee at this point?
Yeah, you have to vote to move to approve this, and then she has to sign it.
So we're approving it, but the town manager is the actual signatory to it.
Correct.
Okay. We have seen this before. I don't know if you've had a chance to refresh yourself with it. This is the amendment that we saw when we, back in November, when we went through, the finals with the MSBA on the project costs. Were there any questions? So I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, the review of the MSBA Module 6. What we just wanted to take a moment to do is...
Charlie,
Did you do both?
I'm sorry, did we miss something?
Charlie's contract, Tepe,
Oh, I'm sorry, you're
Take
right.
individual vote.
and, just like Jocelyn Lesser's contract, the total fee is consistent with what was built in the project budget, on the Form 3011 that was approved by the MSBA. I have 4 copies that I can distribute for everyone, but for the purpose of, saving paper, not
Yeah,
print one for everyone.
that wasn't included in the
No.
packet that I got, so I didn't get a chance to take a look at that if I could just for a moment.
Sorry, Mike, I thought you approved both, but, okay. And again, this was in the Form 3011
Yep.
as well.
I don't have any questions on this. No.
So all you need is a notice to proceed.
Give everybody else a moment.
I don't think we need a vote, because you already have the contract for the whole thing. You just, well, yours is different, it's got these GMP principles too. Yeah, you'll see in a minute what we're about to do. We've talked to Mike about it.
If we have to do a traffic study,
Right.
then it's in there. If we have to look to see if there's any wetlands, although we don't think, it's just for planning purposes.
Right. Any questions?
Is this a not to exceed? Or is it, so,
So,
this is a lump sum contract, correct?
Yes.
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 And so for the items that we have broken out, if they are not utilized, that amount refunded?
You mean this, the reimbursable expenses, survey, geotechnical, et cetera?
Yeah, like
et
for
cetera?
wetlands, traffic studies.
Yeah, that
all those
either,
things.
either you will approve amendments as they come up in proposals, or you won't. And if you don't, if those allowances are not used, then it just stays in the
It stays in the
general
budget.
Stays in the budget, but it's not refunded in terms of, so it's a lump sum.
Well, wouldn't be paid.
It's not billed.
It's not in, that's not in the
Right.
contract.
Right.
Our contract excludes survey and geotechnical and hazardous materials.
Okay.
So it stays in the project budget.
It's in the project budget, it's not necessarily in the lump
But I
sum
think
fee.
it's actually, isn't it in your form, was it on that amendment form? Did you actually have those reimbursables on there?
Yes.
Yeah, so they are actually,
They're included in the lump sum fee.
Yeah, these aren't supposed to be in here, actually. Are these,
oh, they shouldn't be.
where did these come from?
that's from
I didn't
Charles.
fill this out. This was costs amount of this amendment, after this amendment.
So I'm looking at the proposed, at least the cover sheet, the proposed fee is
Fee for basic services.
4.9.
Right.
4.9, and if you look at the amount of the different totals, it totals up to 4.9. So it seems like we would be approving a lump sum fee of 4.9 million, which would include those expenditures,
The hazardous materials, the geotech,
wetlands, traffic
Wetlands.
studies.
What's wrong with this?
Those aren't,
So the question I have, if we're approving that lump sum fee, it sounds like all that's included, and if it's not used,
So you should strike
That's
need to
for
strike.
FSSD.
that, 'cause none of those
this
have been
number
approved.
should be this number.
In other words, those would be,
Where did
those would
this
be
come from?
future.
That came from the 3011.
Yeah, but we typically list it and then we draw down from it.
Yeah, let me just, I'm sorry. There's an error here. The amount, you are correct. The fee proposal, which is attached, is the amount of the contract. It should be for $4,995,000, and $400,000 of that was previously authorized. So the amount of this amendment is the amount that Charlie's saying, which is the $4,595,000. So, you don't vote the amount of of the 3011, you vote for the basic services part of the 3011, which you are correct about, and Charlie will submit proposals for the other items, and those will be not to exceeds. So
Okay.
what we're asking for this evening, the attachment is incorrect, but the fee proposal is correct.
Okay.
Is you're asking for an authorization for this amendment to be $4,595,000 to be added to the previous authorizations, which are shown on the form of the 196 and the 250. So that's the vote we're asking for this evening. We apologize for the error, and then we will correct the attachment F based on this vote, if you take this vote.
That sounds
Yeah, I
satisfactory.
understand.
Jeff, could you give us that number again, please?
Okay, so with the amount of this amendment is $4,595,000, 4595000. And so the column says the amount of this amendment, that is the sum of design, development, construction documents, bidding, construction, and the completion phases. And the other items are not part of this amendment. There will be a future amendment for those items. They will be a not to exceed. They are not part of the lump sum.
If required.
If required.
Yep.
And they will give you proposals for each of those. And so that's what's being asked for this evening. And that is exactly what's in Charlie's letter. So we apologize for the error on the form itself.
And those items that would be under separate proposals are hazardous material, geotech and geoenvironmental, site survey, and wetlands,
Yes.
Yes.
but would include other reimbursables.
Well, if they ask for them, they haven't asked for those at this point. These were the line items in the Form 3011 that they could potentially ask for if needed. But the intent was not to do that this evening, and the intent was only to do the $4,595,000.
The other reimbursable costs, I think, is just kind of a generic term for something else that comes up that no one's thought of. Would probably be a printing cost or something, yeah. I can't think of why we would, because we own all our own reimbursable costs. I mean, we don't charge you for anything. It's all in our.
If you ask for presentation boards for some special thing that came up, then that would be where it would be billed to. But Charlie, typically we don't have that, but just in case there was some money put into the budget to allow for that. But it's not part of the lump sum, so.
So is this done with town council yet, through Perry?
It's the same contract.
Same one?
It's identical. All you're doing is amending the original contract, which is the standard MSBA contract.
One other thing you are doing, one other thing you are doing, just for clarification purposes, is at the time our contract and TAPA's contracts were approved, you weren't 100% sure you were doing CM at risk, and because of that, the way the MSBA structured the contract is the attachments added on are either design, bid, build, or CM at risk. So attached to the contract is a whole bunch of language describing the scope of CM at risk. So that does get added to the contract at this point in time. If we were doing design, bid, build, they have a different set of pages that gets added. So this is the appropriate pages, but this was what was always advertised originally. It is a standard MSBA contract. In fact, you can't do anything other than the standard contract the way they've set up the programs. So this is just an amendment to the contract. You're not approving the contract itself. You already previously did that.
Any questions?
Yeah, is this vote a recommendation for the town manager or whoever's appropriate to execute the contract then? Am I understanding that correct?
That's my understanding. You're voting to approve the contract
So that-
for execution by the town
To
manager.
execute the amendment.
Execute the
So if there's
amendment.
stuff in the amendment that we need to review, I assume that Kerry would push that out. Is that correct?
Correct. It has been reviewed before by town council,
Except that there may be some new
except for the
stuff.
CM at risk.
Yeah.
That was part, the CM at risk language and the design bid build language were part of the RFP that was
standard.
originally issued. So that, I believe that has been reviewed, but we could defer to their review of it. But that was, this is not new language. This is, if you'll see, it's dated 2/25/11 is the standard language that they add, so, which I assume they've seen, but again, comment on their review of that.
Any others? So I'll take a motion to approve.
Move to approve as amended in discussion.
Okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mike, at this point, it would probably a good idea for form the committee of the status of the Shawmut contract too, because we don't need a vote per se, but
Right.
we might want to just give an update. The Shawmut contract, you approved money for pre-construction. In the contract, you only authorized until the vote by the town, for the feasibility and schematic design phase. But in the contract, it says that at the time that it gets approved, you would proceed with a notice to proceed with the rest of the pre-construction phase. The Shawmut contract's different because when they go into construction, they will have to come back with a mini GMP for any early packages and then a full GMP to go ahead with construction. So their contract says all that, but it does require a letter to proceed with the next phase. It's not an amendment because it's already been specified and the dollars are already in there. I'm not sure a vote's needed, but the intent would be the OPM on behalf of the building committee would send Shawmut a letter telling them to proceed with the next phase. I'll leave it to you whether you want to take a vote to authorize us to do that, but that would be the next step for the Shawmut contract. Again, you don't need an amendment to the contract itself.
We took a vote when we brought on Shawmut, and there was a consensus of the body that was just taking out a vote. I'd take a motion to that effect. If not, we'll just proceed.
Okay, we will get that letter out,
Letter out.
and we'll send copies to the committee.
Review of the MSBA Module 6. We just want to go over, where we are and where we're going. And this is, the next phase, which will bring us from design development into construction documents. So, do you want to give us a...
Well, I guess I would ask everybody to take a look at the modular 6. You'll find it's one page. It's not very descriptive of what the next process involved is. So I guess I'm going to ask Charlie to kind of walk us through, but in preparation of that, I sent around a summary schedule, and then Charlie will kind of walk us through, within the DD, within the CD packages, there's a whole series of meetings that haven't been scheduled yet, but that'll be all encompassed back in a master schedule. But again, I'd ask Charlie to just kind of give us an overview of DD and CD.
Okay. I haven't seen this, so in very general terms, I can tell you the following. We have what's called the design development phase, which is to further develop the preliminary design into greater detail and more fully involve our consultants and our engineers and fully involve the community in developing the drawings. That milestone submission is provided to the MSBA in mid-April. And that will be a formal milestone submission to the MSBA. It will have with it updated ed specs and some other supporting documentation, as well as another cost estimate. They will then review and approve that phase, but we will proceed directly into construction documents, which are the final phase of developing the documents for construction. Those documents, as full bid documents, are due in mid-September. However, Shawmut's schedule depends upon a couple of early release packages, which is has become kind of an industry standard, at least with CM at Risk. So we will be releasing at least 2 packages early so that Shawmut can mobilize site work early and also order steel early so that it will get here to meet their schedule in the winter. So in June, I believe, unless it's May, we're going to be releasing a site package, which will be most of the site work as well as the foundations, and that will allow Shawmut after school lets out to begin to prepare the site and begin to excavate for foundations, begin to lay out foundations, and actually ultimately begin on foundations, and that's all contained in here in detail. And then about 3 weeks after that, we will release a steel package that allows Shawmut to bid the steel, and then select a low bidder for steel and have that steel designed, have shop drawings reviewed and approved, and then have the steel fabrication begin in the fall so that the steel arrives at the right time, which will be after Christmas, I believe.
That's correct.
So our design development phase is going to include additional programming meetings with staff, and we have to get with Loxie and Brian and Tim and decide exactly how we're going to approach that. But we need to roll the users back into the design process and get a little bit more detailed about how rooms lay out, what exactly we want, and not exactly what we want, but generally what we're going to do in terms of furnishings, what kind of equipment they're going to need. It's not, we'll have a whole nother round once the building is under construction when we start to order furnishings, and that's an even more detailed discussion of equipment and furnishings. But we do need they need to understand how rooms are laid out and make sure that's acceptable to them.
Will you be using a consultant for the FF&E? Or?
No, we'll do it ourselves. Yeah, we do it in-house. So that's probably my guess. I need to get with you all and figure that out. But I'm sort of thinking maybe the week before February vacation we might try to do that, so that we need to get enough work done that we're ready to do it, and then we need to get you involved early enough that we have time to integrate that into the design development documents. We also need to start reaching out to town boards so that they know what we're doing in terms of the regulatory. We did have one very good and useful regulatory meeting during the schematic design phase, but we need to now, once the site plan is developed enough to share with all the boards, we need to go back to them and make sure we're doing what they want us to do in terms of public safety, in terms of any, DPW standards, in terms of what the police chief and the fire chief want, et cetera, et cetera. We also need to get a handle on what permitting we need to do in case there's early permitting that's required, either with planning or conservation commission. I've gotten the sense that maybe we won't have to go before conservation commission, but we need to vet that. And so all of that needs to begin during the design development phase as well. So we will become much more active in terms of reaching out to folks and having a whole nother round of follow-up meetings. And by the time we get to construction documents, the hope is that we really are off to the races. But the design development, well, the second half of contract documents. But certainly this design development phase is going to continue to be quite interactive in terms of getting a lot of involvement and participation on your end as well as our end as we move forward and develop the design further. And we will obviously come to this board with updates on the progress of the design and get input as well, obviously, as the design starts to actually evolve and become real, and we'll have a lot more renderings and we'll have a lot of pictures to show and things to share in terms of that.
Just on process, if I could jump in on that, if I could help Charlie. We're going to plan to probably have regular design meetings like every other week during the day, and those are mostly ones to pull in the school department for room data sheets and that kind of thing. That'll roll up to the working group that you all created before. We'll take that information, bring it up to a working group on a regular basis, and then that will inform this group as well. So there'll be regular updates of this group, but there'll be these design meetings will be roll up your sleeves kind of working meetings, and then a working group meetings, which are also sort of roll up your sleeves sort of at a higher level. So that's the process that we'll do. And what we'll do is we'll get out agendas of those meetings. So you'll see design meetings when we're going to talk about systems. If somebody has an interest in that, this committee will get those agendas and make time to come to that particular meeting. So if you have a specific interest in things like it'll be systems will be one, elevations will be one, colors, facades, those kinds of things. But it'll be a regular meeting, so they won't have to go out, it'll be scheduled like every other week for those 2 months, so you don't have to think, is there a meeting? There will be a meeting unless it gets canceled. stenciled kind of thing. So it'll make it easy for Loxi to get the various folks from the school, or John from the school, to the right meetings, and then the working group will schedule 2 or 3 meetings of that working group, so you can address, you like this system versus that. And then this group will meet either monthly and get a sort of a summary of that and make the major decisions about, it's this system versus this, or whatever, these materials or whatever. So that's sort of the process we've used before on other projects, and we think it'll work here. Obviously, however you folks want us to tweak that, we'd be happy to do that, but that's sort of a process that's worked well elsewhere. So.
Would you guys be able to maintain like an online calendar of sorts that we could monitor for when those things get scheduled out? Because I know
Sure.
a lot of times they move around and get pushed around, so that's something like a Google Calendar that we could subscribe to or something like that, I think would be very helpful.
I don't know about Google Calendar, we're not doing that. I can
Outlook's
talk to
fine,
Christine, but at a minimum, we can set up a Dropbox for this group that will have, if you go into the Dropbox, the latest calendar will be there. You just open it up. It may not be in a interactive
something
format.
that would-
Something that, and whatever is the one in there is the latest one, because these things will constantly be updated.
That'd be good.
So again, this is just a nice higher level. We'll keep managing to this too. So there's a whole bunch of other meetings that'll have to be put into this. And again, it's marked draft, so if anybody needs any comments or something from us, please let us know.
Charlie, you all set?
I think so.
Okay, good. We wanted to have a bit of a discussion around butters tonight, did we not?
Yeah, Mike put together I can show everybody, tried to give them out, kind of existing conditions all the way through, superstructure, pretty much all the way through, to give an idea, and this is something that would be, I'd give this up for you guys to take a look, but it's something that we would want to share with the community as we go through, but we were thinking this would be pretty much the way we would get the meetings out and what's happening. This could be up on the website as well, so people would click on with that. Another thing we used to do too, Mike, and I didn't make copies, but it was another project where we did, every month, we did a project and we showed pictures of each thing that went on. So all these things, again, we'll attach to the meeting minutes, take a look, and we can do all of that.
Yeah, any graphic would be
Yeah, I
helpful.
mean, this is another project
Yeah.
that's similar, but
That would be great
we
for-
we
even
would have
for our
this up
site.
Every month you could watch it, yeah.
That'd be great for the website.
Yep. And then customarily, we used to set up a butters meetings. We would do it prior to this meeting if people wanted to stay. So people are aware of what's going on and if they have any questions to voice. And again, I think this is a draft in it, and I'm just trying to say that some of this may change, but just to give you an idea of the means of communication we can share with everybody.
Just for my information, when you're pointing out where the site fencing is going, that's that entire yellow perimeter, correct?
Correct.
And what does the site fencing entail?
It's a driven post. For most of it, there are sections, if you're gonna need to get in and out, that you would put on stanchions and ballast the stanchions. So it's
Is it
typically about 6 feet high.
This looks like orange plastic with holes in it?
No, that's snow fence. That's the
Okay.
orange, and that's very step overable.
Razor wire on the top.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to,
Chain link.
Chain link driven.
Oh, it's a chain link fence, okay.
Yeah.
And is there any accommodation for privacy with the chain link at certain points?
In driven sections, you can add scrim, which is a semi-translucent type material, so you can, some lighting can come through it a little bit, but it's that green,
Yep.
scrim that you hang. You typically don't want to, put it on any ballasted fence, because that tends to flip over. It's a wind sail.
Uh-huh.
And so it looks great when you first put it up, and then there's ongoing.
Again, I'm just thinking about the abutters as they, during the construction phase.
We basically want to kind of dial in what the program should be, and then we can carry the right amount of dollars for what people want to do. And I would tend to recommend that collectively we propose what's a standard. Start there. There's always more that you can do to accommodate, but I don't think you want to come out of the gate, bells and whistles. I think you want to do what's typically accepted by, communities across the state. That's a good line to take.
Now, another question that has come up is the parking. It looks like you've got, what, 70, what is that, 90, 95 spaces on total on site?
It'll vary by stage, so the first stage is the summer. We'll probably have 20 to 30 workers there. It's mostly site contractor with, excavation equipment. So the whole site is going to be kind of open and available for trade parking. As the building footprint starts to take shape, which is kind of the next sheet, and we're doing foundation work in the fall, heading into the winter for steel, the manpower is going to increase, and so therefore you're going to have to start controlling your parking a little bit more. It can't really be a free-for-all. So you're going to have designated areas, and yeah, you're right. At that stage, there's probably accommodations for about 95, 100 spots. What I'm always trying to do is match my kind of daily manpower with the amount of spots available. The idea is to keep everybody.
Everybody will be on site
Yes.
within the perimeter of that
Yellow fence.
yellow fence.
Which is
Yes.
Yes.
Which would be up day one.
Okay.
And then, Mike, I noticed that when you do that early fill that we had talked about, that'd be fenced off as well. Is that, am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, for the practice field down on Mass. Yeah, so I think that's the initial intent, is that if we're working in an area, we want to control it safely. That may lend itself to more of the snow fence where it's a shorter duration, but, again, that's your front door, public appearance.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we want to make good first impressions as well, right? 'Cause that's an early piece of work, so. It's a little bit more to run the chain link there, but at the same time, that's your front door.
Yeah, so long as we can, also make sure that it's secure while we're working on it.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna, you're not dealing with a lot of excavations or holes, so the whole field is more, I think, of a regrading effort than anything.
Yeah.
So the hazards would be fairly minimal, but again, public perception and an image of that is important.
Yeah, the early utility fees too.
That's down here with the power. Yeah, I was looking at that today, the pole.
But again, I'd ask everybody, just take a look at this. It was distributed as a draft, and as Mike said, we need to sit down and kind of go through this, bring you into it, John, and stuff, but that's kind of what we're thinking at the moment.
What we typically do, we'll start this preliminary plan, we'll get some feedback from you, we'll tweak it and adjust it. And as contractors come on site too, they're gonna have different ideas. So it's a constant ongoing evaluation of how best to manage the site. But we also identify within that there are certain non-negotiable pieces, that you have to stay within that fence, and the fence is not gonna expand another 40 feet.
It appears, again, I'm getting way ahead, but in the demolition summer of 16, it appears that we're going to be restricted then to access from Oak Avenue because of the way that you're securing the demolition area?
I don't think you need, I thought we were able to give them access right in from Mass Ave. You could do that roadway that summer.
Yeah, I think that
It's just because it's the existing site, we're not seeing the roadway.
Yeah, at some point, we're gonna need to do this work through here. And so how we kind of get into the finer points, there's gonna be kind of mini phases within these major phases that we talk about. When is it best to sequence, because I think we have to run a storm drain line that comes through there.
I
so
think our hope was that if we did it during that summer, then by the time the brand new school opened in September, that road would be finished, even if we were still doing demos in field work. See what I'm saying?
That's true, yes. Yeah,
So if
so
we
on
did it in
this,
July and
I could pull
August,
that
we
line
could get
back.
that
So once the new school is functional, the
Day one of the
entire,
new school, you could drive down to
okay,
Mass.
that was my question.
That's correct,
You should be, because we should be able to do that road in 2 months.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just that extension, that
Right.
leg of it. Yep, I agree.
What are you doing drainage?
What?
You got drainage all planned out already?
We took a whack at it, yeah. I'm sure it's gonna change, but yeah, I mean, there's on-site detention, obviously. So we're not releasing more water than is being released now.
But I mean, you
So
got a
there
lot
are
of impervious or wet,
detention
it's a lot of roof you're taking out, so it's probably not gonna be that much of an add.
Right, but there is we have projected an underground detention in the.
Oh, underground you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Initially as well, I'd ask everybody, I gave out a couple copies of the general requirements. Again, as a draft, this is something that Shawmut manages the job with. It gives everybody an idea. I'd ask you to read through it. It has a whole bunch of things of what expected of subs, working hours, quarry checks, there's some other stuff. And again, we'll need to talk through a lot of this stuff.
So
I
this
wanted
will
to
be
just
on
get
the
it-
next agenda?
Yeah, yep.
I just noticed on this here that it says demolition summer 16 and fields fall 15. I think the fields are fall 16, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we're putting in the fields after.
Good point.
Don't put a field.
Where's that draft sticker?
Yeah, exactly, but just, that's an easy thing to continue to look over because it's just up at the top, but, somebody's gonna get a hold of this and be like,
Wait a second.
yeah.
It's not what I voted
Not
on.
over these people.
Before the meeting, I did have a brief discussion around some things that we might be able to request as we go along, that I just wanted to share with the group. One of the things that I wanted to take a look at was our ability to make sure that we reach out to local contractors, and we do have that ability through the process to do that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that would be part of the process, that we would at least make sure that we were reaching out to local contractors.
I was telling Michael the other day, if you have a list of local contractors and vendors, for the non-trades, these are the ones that are not, what are often called filed sub-bidders, you can give that list to Shawmut. They will make sure they have the proper bonding or whatever they need, but
Right.
they can procure those, and it's all open book, so.
Right. We're not making
We're gonna-
any specific set-asides, but we want to just make sure that we've done our job to reach out to the local businesses.
So what's the process for that, Mike? Is there gonna be a bidding process for the contractors and subcontractors that, the construction company that you guys are gonna run, or how does that all work?
So, once the documents are complete, you have 100% construction documents. At that point is when you're bidding out most of the packages. You've done a couple of early packages, as we were talking earlier, for site, concrete and steel. So those would be the first kind of 3 trades that would go out. Following that, or I guess leading up to that, you do a pre-qualification process. So there's a whole pre-qualification of trade contractors, as well as Shawmut would work with you guys and the team, along with our historical database, to identify non-trade subcontractors that would be qualified to do this work. So their qualifications would consist of the proper manpower to support the schedule, kind of proper annual volume. So there's a whole list of criteria that we use really to make sure that we're bringing people into the mix that can successfully deliver this project.
On the trade contractors, one of the members of this committee will serve on the pre-qualification committee for the trade contractors with Shawmut and with Jocelyn Lester and with Pay. And prior to that, they will submit what are called a response to an SOQ, statement of qualification packages. And it's at that point that we want to get the names to send them out and say, here's the SOQ, so that, because they would have to submit that. And they also have to be certified by the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance. So if people have contractors that are interested, they should start now to make sure they have their paperwork in order to do that. Now, those are on the trades, which are things like masonry, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, HVAC, those kinds of things. Site work is not. Site work goes directly through Shawmut through that separate process. So there's two sets of contracts.
It's a funny hybrid. About 50%, roughly 50% of the value of the contract is filed subbids, which is state mandated procurement process, which which is what Jeff is talking about. And the other 50% is just through Shawmut, which is more like, you call a contractor and say, come do my kitchen, and the contractor hires the plumber and the electrician, right? Well, they don't get to do the plumber and the electrician, but they do get to do the site guy and the steel guy. And it's open book, and they'll have multiple bids. But it's funny, because it's a two-pronged split procurement.
So Shawmut runs a portion of the site and steel?
Well, Shawmut's gonna run the entire job, they're responsible for the whole job.
They all work for me,
But half their subbidders they will hire directly, and half will come through this filed subbid process.
And that file subbid process will dictate who we use for half the trades.
You pre-qualified that you all sit on, that we said this committee of the 4 people that sit on that. And once somebody is pre-qualified, if they come out with the lowest bid, and those bids are taken and open publicly, then they get the work. So if they're pre-qualified and they're low, they get the work automatically. That's what the statute says. So Shawmut will have to carry them. On the non-trades, if for some reason this committee, there was the second low bidder was local and you felt that was important, Shawmut could come back and say, these are the bids, if you want me to carry the local guy, we can do that. There's a bump in the cost. They'll try to negotiate it, but, there's these two separate things, and there's not, as Charlie said, there's no logic to this. It's whoever had whatever lobby when they wrote the statutes, because drywall and carpet are non-trade, resilient flooring is a trade. Masonry is a trade, glass and glazing is a trade, site work is not a trade, millwork is not a trade. It doesn't, there's not a logic to this, there's just, it is what it is, so.
Okay, so who's gonna, I guess, who runs each of those, whatever bidding processes? Like, it sounds like Shawmut runs steel and site process, but kind of like within their, pretty much on their own in consultation with the building committee to some extent. Is who runs the state sort of mandated process?
Jocelyn Lesser does that, but what happens is Tepe does the drawings pursuant to the working group and the committee. Everybody says this is a go with these drawings. Shawmut puts these riders and these additional information on the top, and we do that all collectively. And we send the same packages out to the non-trades and trades, so everybody's bidding the same drawings. And then the bids for the non-trade come in to Shawmut, and they vet them and do something called de-scoping, and Jocelyn Lesser can sit in on that as well with them to de-scope those. Meanwhile, around at the same period of time, the trades come in to either Jocelyn Lesser's office or somewhere in Lunenburg, and then we open those publicly and we read them out loud. We read the numbers at an open session and we tabulate those. And then Shawmut's just given those, but they've been involved in the pre-qual process. The only people that can bid at that point are people that have been pre-qualified. So first people submit SOQs, then they get pre-qualified, and then they're the ones that get the drawings, and then the low bid is the low bid.
And who coordinates and puts out the scope packages? Is it all Shawmut?
Shawmut does it, and then it goes through Jocelyn Lesser and Tepe, and we issue it.
But they're the ones who are saying this goes in this scope package, this goes in that scope package.
That usually goes between our office and Shawmut, because it's the problem with that, well, yeah, that gets worked out.
As long as one set of eyes is making sure that all the scope is covered.
Yeah, we negotiate. The concern is making sure that our specs and drawing, you obviously understand this. Concern is making sure our specs and drawings that the scope riders are consistent with our specs and drawings, so that Shawmut doesn't suddenly give something to somebody where we've said it, we don't want it to be contradictory.
If they gave the blocking on the roof to the roofer, but they gave it to the carpenters, it's a problem. So we have to make sure that any of their riders aren't at odds, because that's where people try to, right, exactly.
And, somewhat related to this, who will be responsible for contracting inspections?
Well, there are different kinds of inspections, but the town, through our procurement of it, will hire a testing agency. And Jocelyn Lester will manage that. Shawmut will tell us when they need inspections and do that. There are some parts of the spec that Shawmut owns or their subs own for certain tests are done automatically by the subcontractors. Other ones are done independently, so it
I'm
depends.
thinking more along the lines of like work inspections on site to make sure that, you know, if you have a waterproofing detail or a roof or a window or something, that's actually being done correctly.
We staff this job with an on-site representative, so he's watching all of that as well.
You actually have multiple sets of eyes, because the architect makes periodic site visits, essentially weekly.
Field reports.
You have a full-time clerk that Jocelyn Lesser employs. You have a testing agency who tests materials, and you also have a commissioning agent who is assigned, and that hasn't been assigned yet, right? The MSBA will assign and pay for a commissioning agent on your behalf, and they are responsible for commissioning, but that also includes construction observation, and particularly now envelope commissioning, which is a new kind of a new thing.
Critical in terms of.
It is. The envelope, the envelope's gotten way more complicated than it used to be, so they'll be out here to look at waterproofing details, damp-proofing and vapor barrier at windows. There'll also be window testing, water testing, et cetera, et cetera.
And Shawmut will do, with our help, will do pre-construction meetings for all the major trades before they start any work. There will be a mock-up for the exterior details, so there are a number of protections throughout the process.
Did that answer your question, Nathan, on subs? I mean, the pre-qual package, I can send you an example of, there's a rating system for everyone to get the ability to bid on the job. So they have to score a certain amount to be qualified to bid. I can bring that at next meeting, so everybody gets a chance to look.
No, I mean, this has been very helpful. I guess where I probably, there's a few things, maybe I don't need to understand now. I guess just back up to what I'm thinking here. What I'm hearing is the notion that, you know, there's opportunities for local contractors to apply. This will be in addition to the other issues, getting the project funded, getting a good contract, getting a good design, this will be another issue where people in town are really interested in this particular aspect. So I want to make sure that I understand it so that, you know, we're doing whatever we can. Timeline-wise, you mentioned us having a role in informing people in town or we're collecting information about people who might be interested in participating in that.
Yeah, again, I'd steer you to this draft schedule, and you'll see each of these events are noted in here. So you see pre-qualifications, we're looking sometime in April for that, and we've put some timelines and stuff to it, so. But we'll give you plenty of notice when that stuff is gonna happen.
And do you guys have some guidelines in terms of what types of activities are typical in terms of, you know, getting the word out, receiving and processing?
We will, and we can do a certain write-up too.
Bid, right? So it's gonna be
Pardon?
It's all public bid. Right?
Well, the 50% of it that's filed sub-bids, right, will be advertised, and anybody, that's an immediate, I mean, that's going to, only people who are qualified, pre-qualified.
There's no reason that Shawmut
couldn't are going to be able to do that.
Trades.
So that immediately limits the pool. With Shawmut, they reach out to the pool of subs they know locally, and they'll probably beat the bushes looking for good pricing and qualified subs.
And I'm sure they can go forth and make advertisements that there's going to be a bidding process for the school.
I mean, Mike, if you
run it in
have,
the local
you
paper.
signatory, right? So you have to be, they have to be union?
Not everybody, no.
Not everybody
no.
is
So,
union,
you know,
okay.
I mean, we
I think as long as you do whatever you
Yeah.
can to get the word out, and say, listen, we posted in the paper, we made notices on the website, whatever, that if you wanted to try to pre-qualify for whatever packages you're gonna have.
Yep.
Say that people have done it.
That was my question. So the pre-qualification advertisement, would you put a notice like that in the Ledger and then one on the website saying, you know, trades pre-qualification packages are available?
Yeah, we will do that for trade subcontractors, which are the 16 or so, or 17 now with fire protection. The only caution I have is that if you have a firm that does masonry, and they do only private work, and they've never done public work, but they'd like to work on this, and they've never been DCAM certified, then they should start now to be DCAM certified. So if they wait for the ad, by the time they get the ad, they're not going to be able to do it. But if they've done any public work and they're DCAM certified, we advertise in the Central Register and the local papers, so they will see the
I
ad.
think they're also hoping Shawmut could do that, sort of put out some sort of,
On the non-trade.
yeah, on the
Yeah, we could
non-trade.
do that.
Let people know.
Is what were the media outlets that you had mentioned?
The Sentinel, the Worcester paper,
In the Ledger.
the Ledger.
That would
Still
cover-
local
That would
weekly.
cover anybody local.
Yeah.
We'll work with you, Mike, and get that all.
I recall reading in one of the documents that prevailing wage may apply.
No, it does apply.
Does apply.
Does apply,
Okay.
period.
So on the local providers, et cetera, you said that you get the bids in, you might get a lower bid, not local, higher bid local, but you can negotiate.
On the non-trades, we have the ability to negotiate. The trades,
You can't negotiate.
lowest number gets it.
Okay. So, I mean, I think maybe this committee wants to talk about this. I mean, I would love to see more local vendors get in. I would like to get to work. I don't want to pay more, and it would be rife for the concerns about abuse, et cetera, not on your end, but, locally. So don't know if this committee wants to make a vote now, or think about it, come back to it, to offer you some guidance, so you're not coming back and forth, but I don't want to pay more money for a local provider. I would love to have them have the opportunity to come back, look at the numbers. If they can meet the best price, great, but it's got to be low bid.
I don't think you need to vote.
because it's transparent. You'll see it all.
He'll show you all his bids when we do the draft GNP, and he goes back, and we ask them to go to each of the subs and get what's called the non-trade. The trade number is the number, but to the non-trade and get best and final. So a local guy that happened to be a little bit more will have the opportunity to come in less, and if he can meet the number, so, and I'm sure you could rather.
Our
have local
discussion,
people.
what I'd said is, we weren't looking for preferences, we were looking for the ability to just reach out to them.
Sure.
But I think now that Shawmut's aware of that need, they'll be proactive, and as we said, the law requires that they have to give a list of the people they're gonna bid to, and the committee or us or anybody can add to that list, and then they will vet those people as well. Obviously, they need to be able to complete the project and be bondable and all those kinds of things that, that are required, but again, starting early helps, with that.
Would you guys be able to pass around in relatively short order a list of trades that will be capable of local participation?
The non-trades.
Yeah.
So we can identify the non-trades.
The trade non-trades.
What's helpful is to provide firms with an order of magnitude estimate, so that, if the drywall package is $2 million and is a great local firm, but his, annual
He's never done
volume
more
is
than
$200. That doesn't go well for anybody.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the stuff is gonna be like landscaping, painting.
Sure.
Some of the more,
Site work.
yeah, less technical.
Painting, by the way, is a trade contract. I told you, there's no logic to this,
So just back to the schedule, you mentioned, so you're gonna be taking submissions for pre-qualification starting in when exactly?
I think we have it here as April 14th.
April 14th.
Again, this is a draft at this moment, but we were trying to put this together so you got some time frames.
What's that called on here? I'm just trying to.
Oh, pre-qualifications, line 65.
65, okay, thank you. Oh, wow, okay. All right, so. And so.
Jeff said that all has to get advertised, so that's somewhat factored into this. There's a review process, scoring process, so.
Gotcha. And you mentioned something about early notice so that people can prepare to pre-qualify, or?
Yeah, I think as Mike said, what we'll do is at the next meeting, we'll give you a list of the files
sub-bids as well as the non-class.
Okay.
And that way, if we know people are interested, we can start getting that.
Okay, thanks.
So what we're calling the filed subbids, which are called trade contractors under the statute, those 17, I think there's 17 or so, those all have to be DCAM certified. So they have to submit paperwork to the state, shows they're bondable and all that kind of stuff. And that takes some time. So somebody that's already DCAM certified will get it, you see this notice, so you'll talk to them, that's easy. But if they're not, they should start now, you know, and see if they want to do that. you know.
Okay. So, thanks for your patience with my questions.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Like Dave here, I mean, my goal here is not to get preferential treatment, but it is, my only thing is like, you know, I don't want it to go by and the bids get out and people in town don't hear about it. I want to make sure they, you know, have the opportunity to participate and they're aware of what's going on or whatever.
It's a common request we see in all the districts, so.
Awesome. Great.
Okay, just to back up a second, we passed right over approval of the minutes. Were there any comments, questions, corrections for the minutes of the 6th? I'll take a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ready? Next meeting.
Good. Next meeting.
I don't want us to show up just to show up. I would like to see, you know, what the next big piece of business for us is in relation to what you expect to happen.
Well, you should probably just create do you want to just do this meeting once a month and then have these working group meetings periodically in between? Because if you're going to do that, you should just schedule it for a month from now.
Right.
Yeah, I would suggest, generally, we have building committees meet once a month, and the working group can meet once a month in the 2 weeks before, or something like that, depending on what we need. And we'll put together a calendar, as I said, of these design meetings and stuff, and then we'll put it on the Dropbox that we're talking about.
I just wonder with the speed that you're gonna try to design this, if every 2 weeks wouldn't be more. You know, it could be a short meeting.
Well, what we're looking for is the working group could meet more often.
Right, I'm just saying, have a standing building committee meeting every 2 weeks. If we want to cancel it because there's no items to be discussed, I think that's fine. But, you know, looking at your schedule and knowing how quickly you're going to want to be doing things and things that are going to percolate up to the committee for kind of approval, I'd just say having a standing every.
I'd see the opposite. I'd like to see one day a month that we consistently have this meeting, and we can always adjust it with working group meetings, because there'll be invoicing and other stuff to be brought up to this committee. So at least if we start booking these days ahead. I just don't know what days you have other boards meeting. We've been back and forth, so I think if we pick one day a month, middle of the month, as we had done before.
Yeah, I would assume a working group twice a month, and this at least once a month, but at least if you set the once a month, you have it, and then you're not worried about it, and you're not, that's the one you don't cancel, and then if you add one, it's okay. What happens is we have two, then people are, maybe that'll be canceled, and we have little problems with, maybe not here, but other places where people aren't sure it's on or not, but I would, at a minimum, we need the one once a month.
Now, this is unusual for the date because the school committee was off schedule, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So we typically would look at the 2nd or the 4th.
So probably for next month, it would be the 2nd, because the
The
4th will bring you to school vacation.
Right.
That's correct.
Right, so.
So the 12th then of February?
Yep.
Yep.
And we'll have to get back to you on location.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, we need to develop the working group, and that's going to kind of develop off of Charlie getting together with the school and stuff to start doing some of the design development meetings. At least this one's consistent.
I'll only say one thing. I'm fine with kind of the once a month. What I don't want to see happen in that, however, is at that month, we have questions about a decision or something and say, well, we've progressed too far to go back and revisit that. That's
Understood.
my only concern.
Yeah, understood.
Understood.
So, you know,
Valid
I've seen
concern.
that happen before. I'd be very disappointed if, you know, this group gets together, we have some serious questions about whatever's being proposed, and, well, we can't go back and revisit that, 'cause it's gonna jeopardize the schedule.
Understand.
Well, I mean, unless there's any serious questions about what's gone forward to date. No, okay.
But just trying to be pragmatic.
No, understand. Well, point well taken. So, understand.
Does the second Wednesday of every month, would it typically work for this group for a building committee meeting? I'm just trying to plan ahead, and if we could at least pencil in and get them on the calendars
Pencil them in.
early for the year.
Be easier to plan for.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
The second
Any,
Wednesday?
any concerns around that? Okay.
Look ahead a couple months, each meeting, look ahead a couple months and see if we need to change it for some reason, but at least you have it on the schedule.
Yep. So what I'll do is
Yeah, we'll just take a look at like, any other school breaks in that
Okay.
period of time.
So what I'll do is, I'll email Loxie and you, if you could just let me know if there's any town or district conflicts, and then, once we feel that they're good to go, we'll email them out to the entire committee so everyone can, note it on their calendars.
Great.
Good idea.
Doesn't the finance committee meet Wednesdays?
Thursdays.
Thursdays, okay.
And is 7 o'clock a good starting time? Does 6:30 work better? Just trying to,
What do you expect the duration?
well, tonight we met for about an hour so far.
Yeah, so assume an hour and a half.
Hour and a half,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would say.
Anybody like 6:30?
6:30 is fine with me.
Earlier is better for you.
What?
Earlier to
Get
bed.
home a little
Yeah,
early.
It doesn't matter to me.
Personally, it can be anything after
Got a
6
trip
is fine
to
with me usually.
Make it here.
I'm the only holdout, so whatever he needs to do.
Well, no pressure
Does that
then.
work for you, Brian? 6:30 start rather than 7?
As long as I'm here.
Okay, so we'll target every second Wednesday of the month at 6:30. The next meeting would be February 12th at 6:30. Locations for
To be
all
determined.
meetings to be determined, but we'll try to plan those out ahead of time too.
Right.
Okay?
Is there any other business?
Hey,
Take a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.